Jesus was walking with his disciples around these statues dedicated to Caesar. And he was walking around all these idols. And you can imagine the feeling in the air. They're following Jesus as the Son of Man, as Peter says later. And Jesus says, "Who do you say that I am?" Now, the same question we should ask ourselves today. Every faith community should ask itself every so often. Who do people say that we are? At St. Margaret's Church, who do we say that we are? And who do others say that we are? And to put it in context, we live here in Annapolis. There are other people, other groups that do similar things as we do. St. Anne's downtown, St. Philip's on Bestgate Road, St. Luke's in Eastport, and other churches, St. Martin's in the field up in Severna Park, and other denominations as well. Gloria Dei, St. Andrew's by the Bay, Christ Our Anchor, Broadneck Evangelical. All these groups doing similar things to us, right? But where else do we put our allegiance? Where else do we worship as people? Well, the mall, right? We worship at places where we shop for possessions. To some degree, we worship success and we worship prosperity in our places of employment. We worship the idol of perfection sometimes. Our soccer leagues on Sunday mornings certainly take our attention away from God and demand our loyalty to some degree. Other sports leagues do as well. So amidst all these competing, I wouldn't even say competing, I would say amid all of these things that call our attention and desire our praise and worship, who do people say that we are? I know what I'd like to hear. I think we're becoming a community that holds a few things and a few values in pretty high esteem. I think one of the things that we should say about ourselves is that we are a dynamic worshiping presence. That when people come in to worship with us, more often than not, they have an experience of the divine. And they have an encounter with God that changes them. That's one of the things that we talk about as a staff, as the atmosphere in this room. We try to build an atmosphere and a feeling where you can have an experience of the divine. Everything we do up here, from our music, to our worship, to our prayers that we choose, everything is geared towards building that atmosphere. We want this atmosphere to also be challenging. Because, again, the idea is that we are changing lives. It's one of a book that Karen Inwicke is passing around through the vestry and through leadership. It's called Not Your Father's Offering Plate. And in it, the author, Cliff Christensen, says, churches are different from other organizations for one reason, is that we change lives through Christ. And I would actually change that language and say, we transform lives in Christ. That's what we are called to be about. That's what we're called to do. We can do that probably better than soccer leagues can do it. We can do that probably better than J. Crew and the mall can do it. We do it differently than other churches or temples or shrines or synagogues do it. But they're more or less in the same realm. Transforming lives through Christ. That's what we're supposed to be about. And we don't do that if we remain static. We don't transform or change if we're not challenged. And if you go to the gym to work out, to strengthen yourselves, you know this to be true. You know that when you lift a weight, your muscle tears. And then when it recovers, it reconnects and grows stronger. The same is true in our spiritual lives. When we are challenged by things that we don't agree with, don't like, don't understand, we are forced to grow. We're forced to grapple with them. We're forced to make some kind of meaning with them in our lives in Christ, and then we grow. You know, from this pulpit, when Jane and Sarah and I preach, the idea is that we're preaching sermons that we used to call cheek-to-cheek sermons. You know what those are? It's like when you go in your pew from cheek to cheek because you're uncomfortable. That's where we are, so you go cheek to cheek. That's the idea, is that we want to challenge you. We want this to be a place of growth and ultimately a transformation. Which is not to say that we want church to be uncomfortable. Because the final thing that I would say about this is that I want this place to be a safe place. And what I mean by safe is that I want people to come in here and to bring their doubts and their questions about God and feel safe. I want people to come in with their questions about why God does this or why God doesn't do this and feel okay with whatever answer they get. I want people to come in here without having any sense of what we do at the altar or why we say the prayers we say or why we keep reading the same book week after week and not feel judged. More and more people are growing up without the stories that we all know in our bones. More and more people don't know the language of the prayer book that we've all grown up with. We need to be a place where those people can come in and not feel put upon, but feel welcomed and feel as though they are having an encounter with God. And I think some of the things that we do in this church are geared towards that effort. Or the biggest thing that we're doing towards this mission of transforming lives in Christ is that in about a month, we're going to take some shovels, put it in the dirt out back of the administration offices, and we are going to build a 15,000 square foot, 2-story building for formation. It's the biggest thing our church has done in many, many years. It's going to change materially and spiritually the way that we operate, not only on Sunday mornings, but also throughout the week. Support groups will be able to come in and have space. I don't know how many of you know this, but we used to have an AA group that met here, a 12-step group that met here on Tuesday nights. And they met in the largest room on our campus that's not the parish hall. Does anyone know what that room is? What's the largest space on campus? Vesper, you don't answer. Largest space on this campus that is not the parish hall. Does anyone know? Well, besides the church. They didn't want to meet at church. So, anyone know what the largest space is? The library. How many of you have been in the library? About half of you, okay? It's not a big space. So this support group outgrew that space, and yet they were too small to be in the ginormous parish hall. So we lost them. They went up to St. Martin in the Field, Severna Park, so thank God for Severna Park. But if you're in recovery on the Broadneck Peninsula, you just lost your Tuesday night group. Now you got to trek 20 miles up the road to Severna Park. Maybe not 20 miles. Feels like it. This new building is going to change the way that we operate in our 3 major discretionary areas, which are outreach, formation, and music. Right? The things that we're doing in those areas are really, really wonderful. For example, in youth formation, Sarah Landing has done a wonderful job in bringing to our attention and promoting the idea of sustainable youth ministry, which means that our youth ministry will no longer be based on one person who is on the staff, but will really be the responsibility for the entire parish. Not only that, but it won't just be dependent on the staff person whose personality may be good or may not be good, maybe like a Pied Piper or not. Sustainable youth ministry means that everyone is involved, and it means that it's not dependent on one thing, but can sustain itself throughout many, many years. Our music program does a wonderful job of outreach to the greater Annapolis arts community. And a lot of you have actually been brought into our community because of the concert series that James Fitzpatrick puts on. But it's not just the concert series. It's week in, week out, along with the Third Sunday band, putting together great music that allows people to enjoy God's presence and opens up our imagination to what God is leading us to. Our music program is tremendous and does a lot of good for our community. Finally, our outreach. Winter Relief is a wonderful example of how we transform lives. And the first part of Winter Relief last year in November, or December I guess it was, my idea was that the lives that were being transformed were the guests, because we'd sit with them, we'd hear their stories, and we'd hear about how they'd been welcomed by St. Margaret's, and I found myself patting myself on the back. And then it might have been James Hammerhand who said to me, he said, "No, the lives that we're transforming are not theirs, they're ours." And it was like a brick to my forehead. Like, yes, of course. Because so many of you who volunteered at Winter Relief came to me afterwards and said, "I feel changed. I sat down with a man who has no home, doesn't know where his next meal is coming from." How can somebody not be changed by that? Not be moved by that experience of sitting with the Christ and one another? I think these are the areas that we're moving into as a church. And obviously there's a lot more to be done. We need to continue to support Sarah's vision of sustainable youth ministry, and that means getting involved. That means everybody pitching in and lifting up that vision to say that we all believe in youth formation, believe in offering the best formation for our children, and then taking a part in it. Maybe it's not volunteering to teach Sunday school every Sunday, but ask Sarah. She will give you work to do. That's why I stay away from her. Our crowd does well at about 120 people for most of the year. Our 9 o'clock crowd, however, maxes out at about 240. And all of a sudden, newcomers come in and they can't find a seat. What's the capacity of this church? Does anyone know?
242.
Mike says it's 242. Mike, how many people did we have for the Fred Zimmerman funeral yesterday?
289.
289. Now, we don't have big funerals like that every week. But we have big Sundays like that a lot during the year. We need more space in this church. I think we all know that. Not only that, but some of the pieces in this church need to be refurbished. You know, James's organ probably will last another year, but it probably won't last another 5 years. It might not last another 3 years. We're going to need to replace that organ. And if we decide to replace it, even with a smaller pipe organ, we're going to need some space for those pipes to go. So we need your resources, your wisdom, your discernment, and your engineering skills to help us figure out some solutions to these problems. To help build a church for the future that we can all be proud of and say, what is St. Margaret's? This is who I say St. Margaret's is. It's a church that takes these things seriously. It's a church that is able to meet the needs of the community when they are presented. It's a church that doesn't shy away from challenges, but rather meets them knowing that that is what God is calling it to do. Just as Moses was born from the water, we too are born from the waters of baptism. And we are given a responsibility in this church. We are given the responsibility for a sustainable church, a church that can grow into the future, and a church that can meet the needs of many different people. If that is who you say St. Margaret's is, let your action meet your statement. Let it be so. Amen.
Amen.